But it's one thing to be like, I'm Team Adrian, or like your friends being like, I'm Team Spencer, and it's someone else who can be like, I'm Team Adrian, but I'm also Team like Nakamura.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the It Takes Two podcast. We are here with episode 5.
Episode 5. It's already been a little over a month now.
I know. This week we're going to be talking about growing together, which we've talked about a little bit over the last week, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we've covered, I feel like the whole podcast topic or theme is growth, but we want to take a episode to really just talk about practically what does growth look like with one another and what we found to work with us. So we're excited for it. As always, if you haven't yet, make sure that you guys are leaving a review for the podcast, whether that's on Apple or Spotify. You can scroll down, click the 5 stars, leave a written review. That helps us rank in the podcast app and really get the podcast out there. But thank you to everybody that has been watching. We still have to find a nickname for these.
Yeah,
listeners.
I think one of the best ones we heard was Two Crew.
The Two Crew.
So maybe we should do a poll. Like, do people like that?
Yeah, I think that's the best one. The Two Crew. It sounds catchy enough. It's easy, but yeah, that's definitely the best one that we've heard so far. So if you have a recommendation, let us know. But if not, the Two Crew might be the one.
Yeah, and then the Would You Rather poll from last week.
Oh,
the results are in, and I find it kind of shocking.
So what was the question?
The question was, would you rather throw up at the altar at your wedding, or would you rather have your ex show up uninvitedly to your wedding?
And what was the results?
And the results were, have your ex show up to your wedding. And it was kind of like a landslide.
Really? Well, that's what we both picked.
I know I picked it, but knowing that I feel like I'm kind of a little kooky for picking it. So to all you other kooks out there, I'm glad that I'm amongst good company.
No, that's definitely, yeah. Everybody wants the drama of their ex showing up and to see what would happen over just puking in front of everybody. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's more about no one wants to look bad, but that other person's already going to look bad. So have at it.
Yeah, that's funny. So this week, the new segment again. So we'll go back on some segments eventually. But
there were some goodies, but we have a new one.
Yeah, we have a new one. This is the overrated or underrated segment.
Thanksgiving edition.
So what we're gonna do is we'll list out some Thanksgiving foods. I think they're foods, and we'll just talk about overrated or underrated. Everybody has an opinion on Thanksgiving food. It's a hot topic.
It's a holiday. Well, it's not about food, but it kind of is.
Yeah, everybody's divided on food. You know what's funny? This is completely unrelated, but do you remember I used to work with this guy? And we went out to lunch.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up.
Oh, you were?
I'm so glad you are.
Should I not?
No, you should definitely say it.
So I was, we worked together, and we were out with a bunch of our coworkers at a restaurant, and it was probably around this time. And I'm half Japanese, right? Not everybody knows that, but if you look at me, you're like, this dude's kind of Asian. But it's so funny. We knew each other, like we're friends, but he doesn't know like a lot about me. And he was like,
well, even if your friends know you, they don't like necessarily know your family, though.
Yeah. So he you could tell he was trying to strike up a conversation, and he was like, hey, so, what does your family eat for Thanksgiving? and I was like, we have turkey, and we have mashed potatoes, and he was like, he was so embarrassed. He's like, so you guys don't eat like different Asian food during Thanksgiving? I was like
he thought he was being culturally aware, and you're like, you're actually really unaware.
I've actually grown up quite white cultured, but that's besides the point. All that to say, food is an important aspect of Thanksgiving. So let's go through item by item, and we have a few here, and we'll give our opinions on underrated or overrated. You want to give the first one?
Okay, yeah. First item is the queen, the belle of the ball, the turkey.
Just straight up
overrated
turkey.
Or underrated?
You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I will go first. I think it's overrated.
I think it's overrated too.
But it's a classic, and I'm never not going to have turkey on Thanksgiving. But what I want to know, And I want people to comment in the comment section under this. If you don't have turkey for Thanksgiving, what do you have? I know there are alternative options out there. Ham.
Chicken.
Some people I know like have some
Steak?
kind of seafood. I don't know, but I want to know what your tradition is if it's not turkey, but it's overrated, but I'm going to pick it every time.
I've never had a fried turkey. I hear fried turkeys are awesome. But I would say, yeah, turkey. I would say overrated. Especially the white meat. Overrated.
I'm not a white meat girly.
Dark meat all the way. Okay, so turkey overrated. We both agree on that.
Yeah.
All right. Mashed potatoes.
It's underrated. I think that's the belle of the ball for Thanksgiving.
I think, well, yeah, I guess.
That tray is never going to be overloaded. It'll be empty every year.
Yeah. I think mashed potatoes are hyped, but I think
they're not hyped enough.
They're not hyped enough. I think mashed potatoes are so underrated.
I think you think of Thanksgiving, you think turkey and mashed potatoes. I think turkey needs to have the second seat. It needs to be mashed potatoes and turkey.
Just a plate of mashed potatoes with a little bit of
I'll
turkey.
like go to KFC and it's like the best. It's like Thanksgiving every year.
Oh,
I love KFC.
Adrian has like the most irrational obsession with KFC. It's the craziest. Like anytime there's a KFC we drive by, she'll be like, "Oh, KFC."
That sounds so good.
Yeah, she has a crazy obsession with KFC. Okay, I would say yeah, underrated for mashed potatoes. All right, here's one. I think we're gonna be divided on this one. Stuffing. I think stuffing is so underrated.
Well, I just straight
crazy.
I straight up don't like it.
It's crazy how underrated stuffing is.
It's mush. It's slop.
No.
Overrated.
If it's done wrong, it's slop. But good stuffing, I'd rather have stuffing than mashed potatoes.
I'll try it this year.
You've never tried it?
I don't like it, but I've never tried it.
Adrian, literally, oh my goodness.
I can look at something and know if I like it or not.
No, that's not true.
Yeah.
There's so many, Adrian is like the most picky eater in the entire world, actually. But I have led her to greener pastures.
Grown. Okay.
I have led you to begin to enjoy types of food. And literally, probably 80% of the things that Adrian's like, ugh, that is so gross. She has never tried. She's literally never tried it. And I found this out like into dating because I'm like, man, Adrian doesn't like a lot of things. And then I found out like most of the things she said she doesn't like, she actually just has never tried. So,
I don't have a list of things I do like. I have a detailed list of what I don't like. And I had to actually write this out for my team one day. Like, by the way, all of these foods are off limits.
Yeah. I'll say, hey, but have you ever tried it? She goes, I don't need to try it to know. But
the look, the smell, that's enough for me.
Oh, man.
My first impression is...
So try it. Try it this year.
Okay, I promise I'll try it.
Okay.
I'll let you guys know how it goes.
All right, pumpkin pie.
I think it's overrated. I did try it. It is okay, even though I didn't think I liked it. I will say, though, that everyone says that Costco pumpkin pie is the best.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had Costco pumpkin pie.
All the lazy ladies out there, they go to Costco.
All the lazy queens. I would say pumpkin pie for me. Man, I like pumpkin pie, but I do think it's overrated. I think there's a lot of other desserts I'd rather have than pumpkin pie.
Yeah.
But pumpkin pie with a bunch of I was about to say Dole Whip. Cool Whip, not Dole Whip. Cool Whip on there. That's good. But I would still say it's a little overrated. Okay, finally. Gizzards.
Okay, gizzards.
I've never had gizzards.
I'm surprised. I haven't either. But you know, it's like in the turkey, you reach in, there's like a bag of like all the innards that people will. I think people put them in stuffing. Does anyone eat them straight up?
I don't know what gizzards are.
It's all the innards of the turkey, like the organs and things. They'll like collect all the things that people eat and they'll put it in like a little baggie. So when you cook the turkey, you reach your hand in and you can pull out the neck and you pull out the gizzard bag. My Nana used to eat the neck of the turkey. That was her thing.
I'm going to go overrated because I've never had it, but I'm open to trying it. I just don't even know. Like, I never knew.
The answer is, we don't know.
We've never tried it. So
yeah, because who eats gizzards? That's another poll. Who eats gizzards for Thanksgiving?
If it was presented to me, I feel like I would, but I feel like it's never an option.
It's kind of like under the table, like, hey, if you're into the nasty, here you go.
Yeah.
And it's like a secret sauce for all the wackos out there.
Yeah, gizzards is a question mark for me.
Also,
So
the word is not inviting.
what? Yeah, gizzards. No, thanks.
You
Well,
want some gizzards, kids?
let us know if you guys have any opinions on what you think is overrated or underrated, and we would love to see if we were right or wrong with that.
So, anyways, that is our Thanksgiving edition, underrated or overrated.
Yeah, pretty standard. I feel like we hit all the hot topics of hot topic foods of what everybody would think, but yeah, we'll do another overrated or underrated topic in the future with maybe different themes. You know, Valentine's Day, New Year's, Christmas. There's a lot.
I love holidays.
There's a lot we could do with overrated or underrated. But this episode, we're going to be talking about how to support each other, and we'll talk about a little bit of different topics with it. I think this is a really obviously important topic because obviously marriage should be supporting and growing with one another. And so I guess we'll start with, and you can start on this, Age, but it's kind of patience. So the idea of patience with growth, because don't you know we all need some patience with one another from time to time.
Amen. Yeah, I think that no one has arrived. No one is perfect. Everyone is on a journey to growth in some way or another. And maybe some of those needs are more obvious than others at points, but when your spouse or someone that you're dating maybe is on that journey to growth, how are you patient with them? How can you be supportive of them as they try to like grow and improve? Because I think it's a hard uphill battle sometimes, and I think as long as they're making an effort, then I think that sometimes you just have to read the room, know that when they're falling short, it's like, okay, but at least they're trying. You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's one step forward, one step back, two step forwards, one step back. Maybe it's a strong walk forward, but either way, I think you guys have to learn to be understanding while they're trying to make that journey.
Yeah, that is a good point. And I think like life comes with different seasons. You know, it's obviously as you go as a couple, as a married couple or dating or whatever it looks like, every season's going to be different, where it's like, you know, oh, a new job comes up, or they're wanting to, maybe you're in a transition season, or there's so many different ebbs and flows, especially when you're talking about as a couple. So I feel like we can't expect life to just be the same all the time. And so I think that there's going to be seasons where patience is required more, and you as somebody that loves the other person has to be aware of when those seasons are, and to just like give each other a break. I think that's one of the, you know, an important principle, especially when it comes to like those tense, because growth is tension, right? But in those moments, it's like, you know, you can frustrate each other and do all that, but when's the last time that you just like gave your significant other a break? Like, just give them a break. Because we're good at giving people breaks and grace, but then sometimes when it comes to your person, you know, you love them so much, you expect so much out of them, but it's like sometimes it's just like we just need to take a deep breath, and you need to be understanding a little bit more, especially in different seasons.
You're really good at that.
Am I?
Yeah, every year I'll go through this like packet of like what's going to grow in me, what's going to die in me, what's going to be birthed in me, like what's my word for the year, what I want to, how I want to improve, where am I going? And I always think like, oh, okay, like I really focused on this one category of how I think I can grow. Then I get to the next year, I'm like, I don't know what it's going to be. I'm feeling really good. And then I'm like, ooh, becomes glaringly obvious that I am not arrived in this category.
Yeah.
But I think I'm also really vocal, like, oh, I think I've noticed that I really need to grow in this area. And like, I want you to know, because like, I want you to hold me accountable to that. But I also want you to know because like, I see it, I'm trying. And sometimes after the fact, you know, maybe something will happen. I'll be like, okay, just so you know, like, I know that I didn't handle that the right way, but I can see it because like I'm actually actively trying and I'm putting my efforts to improving in that one way. But you're really good about being patient with me.
Well, thank you.
I think that's also your personality. But
Yeah, it is my personality. And I think
How do you stand me?
it is a spiritual gift. No, I'm just kidding. You're easy to stand. And I think an important aspect of patience is like, it's the idea of things take time, and this isn't a movie or a TV show and you see the character development or character arc of a person in 10 hours.
Right.
This
Good
is
things take time too.
good things take time. And so it's important to realize that, like, if you're going through a hard season or somebody, your significant other struggling, or maybe they're just trying to grow in a certain area of their life, like that takes a lot of time in real life. And so it's not like Monday comes and you're like, oh, I want to get better at this. And then by Friday, you're completed.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking months, we're talking years. And I think what helps with us is noticing when each other make a small decision on what we want to do and celebrating that.
Affirmation is huge. Like,
Yeah.
I can tell that you're trying, you're doing a really good job. And like, I notice that in you. I think that goes a really long way in your support of that person when they're trying to make their best effort. But also, let's say that they are not growing or they don't see it. And sometimes it's hard to bring that up to someone, but I think you can pray for them. That's like huge. Like, not only like, how do I deal with this while they're struggling, but also like, God, would you reveal to them the things that they need to grow in? Because when you have a self revelation, I think that your growth is a lot more impactful and profound when you discover that for yourself.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, some people out there, it's like, hey, the person that I'm with just like doesn't see this blind spot, and it's like I brought it up to them. I've talked about it with them, but they just don't see it. And it's like, yeah, the piece of advice is like, okay, well, pray that God would convict their heart and reveal that to them, because at the end of the day, as bad as it may seem, it's like pride comes before the fall. And sometimes we get so prideful about things, and sometimes God just needs to humble us.
It's hard to have people point out something in you too, like point out those flaws. So it might not be well received at first, but I think if you're praying for them in that self-reflection, I think in time that they will come to see that if, they're really open to growing in general.
Yeah. And, we try and make it, whenever we're talking with each other, to make sure that we're not, I feel like our heart's intention sometimes doesn't come out with our words. It's like, I'm saying this lovingly. Well, you don't sound lovingly, and
Yeah.
And, well, even between us, it's like, we'll have conversations and you're like, you're being snippy. It's like, no, I'm not. Well, I'm telling you that you are. So you need to change the tone. And it's like, oh, okay. But, it's like, sometimes it's just, we get so defensive. And I think that's one of the funny things about marriage is like, we're so intimately involved, but at the same time, when somebody so intimately knows you, that means that they carry the most weight when they say things. And so you actually feel the most vulnerable when they say things towards you that could be, even if it's for your benefit, could hurt you. So,
right.
You do a good job with me. It's at least like, if you're saying something that I need to work on or improve on, of like being very loving and supportive while you do it. Because I feel like it's easy as a married couple to get defensive. Like, hey, why would you say that? I'm doing fine. I feel like that's a natural reaction.
Yeah, I think there's a couple mechanisms that we've learned, like how to maybe either address conflict or maybe how to bring up those kind of conversations. So obviously the sandwich mechanism is something that maybe more people have heard of, where, the bread is like, you start and end conversations with affirmation, and you transition not with but, because that cancels out everything you just said, but saying, in addition to that, or also, I have noticed, A, B, and C. Also, I just want you to know, I want to circle back saying that I do love you, and that's why I'm coming to you with this. So like the sandwich mechanism, I think if you don't even know how to start with love.
Yeah.
And if you don't know where to take it, end with love. 'Cause I think the first thing and the last thing they heard is hopefully going to be what resonates with them the most. So I think the sandwich mechanism is a great way to start if you don't know how to start with conflict. And then the baseball mechanism. So like if we're going to coffee like once a week for our little dates that we like to do, where did each of us answer, like, where did I strike out? So where did I totally blow it and mess up? Where did I have a base hit? So something that I did well but can still do better. And then where did I have a home run? So where did I completely knock it out of the park? You killed it. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And I think that is a way to affirm someone while also giving that correction, but it's not in an emotional based conversation. It's, in a controlled, like, casual, like, okay, here's something that I've noticed, and you do it back and forth to each other.
Yeah. And I think it's important, method is great when you have a place that you need to start, but it always has to, like, you have to be genuine about it. It's like the sandwich effect can't just be like, hey, you look nice today, but what you said to me yesterday sucked, and why would you ever say that? And I like your hair. It has to be like a genuine, like, hey, I actually love you, I actually care about you, but because of that, let me give you this other perspective now.
Yeah, I think that's really good. If you have someone who wants to grow but doesn't know, like, where to get started, there's, like, a few things that we've talked about, like, practically, of how you can make those next steps or how you can get help to do that.
Yeah, one of the first things is I think it's really unfair to expect your partner to grow in things if you're not really willing to grow yourself. So I think, especially as a man, it's like, okay, yes, I'm trying to lead Adrienne, I'm trying to help her grow, but you have to realize that everything you do comes out of what you're doing to yourself. And so how am I growing myself first, and what am I doing to help myself? And then from that, I feel like it creates a more natural environment for both of you to grow. Because if you don't do that, I feel like it's easy for each other to get into a pointing match with each other of, like, why aren't you growing in this area? Why aren't you growing in this? And instead of corporately coming together and doing it as well.
Like, how can we do better?
Yeah.
Not just like, you have a lot of work to do, babe. Yeah. I think we all have places that we can grow in. And maybe if you're like, they got a lot of work to do, it's like, okay, well, how can you encourage them? How can you support them? How can you maybe be more patient, be more understanding? Or how can you help them find resources where they can make those next steps? But I think if you're looking to grow, you have to find those safe spaces of, where are you getting your advice from? Who are you running to when you need that help? I think identifying what are the right places to go to.
And obviously we'll talk about friends here, because friendships and relationships are very, very important. And if you're married or dating, that it's hard to find people that both of the people click with. Like,
I click with her, you click with him. He doesn't annoy me like she doesn't annoy you.
Yeah.
Like, it's we're all four, like, really good friends. Like, that is a lot of dynamics to be like, we're good.
It's a lot of, you're putting four personalities together. So, and there's a lot of friendships maybe that me and Adrienne have that it's not like, oh, I like this guy, and she's like, well, I hate his wife or whatever, or vice versa. But it's more so like, oh yeah, they're nice, they're great, but there's not that, like,
that
deep,
click.
Intimate click connection. And but it's so important to find that in a marriage, especially because to get two couples that understand the dynamic of your relationship and that know you individually and together, that can help in that regard. We found, a couple of our closest couple friends, and it was crazy that we both clicked, and it was natural, and now it's great because those are two people that we can go to anytime. If it's like, oh my, like it's a safe place to go to if we ever need advice or to relax or decompress or whatever we need in that season, is really great. But it's so rare to find.
But it's one thing to be like, I'm Team Adrienne, or like your friends being like, I'm Team Spencer, and it's someone else who can be like, I'm Team Adrienne, but I'm also Team, like, Nakamura.
Yeah.
Like, I'm Team
That's good.
You guys versus, like, what's best for me. That's maybe not always the goal when you're in a healthy marriage or trying to have a healthy marriage. It's not always just about me. It's about us. Yep. And if you have someone that appreciates you, loves and respects you and me, like, I think you're going to get a lot more of a safe place, a lot better advice, because they're thinking holistically about your life, not just one dimensional.
Yeah, they want you both to win. And I think that's the difference of, if we're being honest, I think there's a lot of toxic relationships out in the world where, if there's a lot of girls, maybe not around you, but there's a lot of girls in the world that you could go to and say, oh, Spencer's really making me angry today. This is what he's doing. And their response is going to be, oh, wow, he sucks. Like, what the heck? Like, oh, what a loser, you know? And they just feed on to that. Or even me, like, there's probably guys that I could go to be like, oh, Adrian is doing this today. And they're like, wow, that's so annoying. Why can't she be more appreciative? All these things. And that doesn't help anything. And so our safe space relationships, the people that we really click with, it's like I can go to my friend Mikey, and I can be like this literally happened probably a month ago or 2 months ago, where it's just like, I think we were arguing about something, and I was like, oh man, like, it's just I'm having a hard time because I just feel like, I'm being misunderstood, and I'm just frustrated and emotional. And he's sitting there and he's hearing me, and he's like, oh yeah, dude, that sucks. Like, oh man. He's like, but then he goes, yeah, but just like give it the night. Like, I'm sure you guys will have a good conversation tomorrow. Just like understand where she's at, understand what she's feeling. And it's like, oh, okay. They bring you back to earth.
Someone who's not just feeding all your negative thoughts, but giving you a different perspective. And I think that's what a really good friend will do, is not just like affirm all of your feelings. Because sometimes it's like, okay, maybe you are upset, but is the reality that like everyone is hurting you?
Yeah.
Or maybe you just unhealthy right now, and it's not all of them. Maybe it's just you, and you need to see things differently. Or thank goodness for people like Mike, you are like believing the benefit of the doubt about me. Like, I know Adrienne loves you. I know she's coming from a good place. You have to consider these other factors that are going on in her life. And it's not an excuse, but it gives you a perspective besides just saying like, I can't believe she would do that to you. You deserve better than that. You don't need people who talk to you that way about your significant other.
Absolutely.
That's what's toxic. People who feed your negative emotions and like rile you up on things that you're already upset about. And it doesn't even have to be about your spouse. Friends that can do that about your family, friends that do that about other relationships that you have in your life. If they're not, pointing you to reason and peace, I think even to safeguard yourself, the first person I'm going to maybe isn't you, maybe isn't my friend. I have to like bring those things in prayer first, because then I'm not bringing all my unfiltered thoughts to someone who now is susceptible to thinking negative things about you or negative things about whatever I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I've already prayed about this. I've already talked about this, but I do want to filter this through you because I want you to be updated on what's going on in my life, how you can pray for me, know, the different ways that you can challenge me going forward, because I've been struggling with this, but I've prayed about it first, so I'm not just throwing up on you and telling you all my unfiltered feelings.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning too, like, be careful, this whole thing, be careful of who you're sharing information or getting advice and wisdom from, and counsel from, because, if you go to somebody for help or advice and maybe they have an extremely fractured relationship or something that's not going good, they will see your situation through what they're going through, and then they can almost project onto you and get you believing lies that were never there in the first place. So make sure that people, I'm not saying everybody has to be 100% healthy and good and everybody has to, but understand who you're going to for advice and what kind of advice they're giving, whether it's godly and it calms the storm, or whether like if you're, you're going out with your mom club, not you, but I'm just speaking in general, or you're
obviously not
you, but hanging out with your girls or hanging out with your guys, like after you're done, do you feel relieved or do you feel like riled up? And I think that's a good marker to, okay, maybe these aren't the best people to be. I can hang out with them, but maybe I'm not getting advice and counsel from them. I think there's a separation between the two.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And friends can hold you accountable, but like make sure that you're going to the right people with the right intentions, people who have perspective, people who are healthy as well. If you have a friend that's really going through it, maybe they're not in a place to give you advice in this season. Maybe normally they're a person you can run to, but if you know they're going through a lot and they're seeing the world from a skewed perspective, you don't want that skewed perspective to now be infiltrated into the advice that they're giving you.
Yeah. And I think we designate, not like on a piece of paper we write down a list, but I think we just internally know what different friendships we have in our life.
Well, and I think there's people where I'm like, okay, just so that you and I are both clear, I can go to like these people and I can tell them anything about us, and we agree that those are safe people too. Like you and
Yes.
I are on a mutual understanding that they can know anything. Or if I'm like, Spencer, I really want you to do this and you're not listening to me, I'll go to your friend and be like, okay, you've really got to talk to him because he's not listening to me. He needs to hear this from somebody else. And it's a trusted person that I know you respect.
Yep. Or those are also the people that, if you're having a bad day and, Adrian, has the mentality of like, she's like, if things aren't going your way, it's like more shut down. So like you don't want to talk to a lot of people. But then there are those people that I'm like, okay, hey, I think you need to call Adrian because she's having a hard time and she needs some encouragement. So it's both ways of like
And
bad.
I've loved that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That like, okay, it's not just me who's telling her, like, it's okay, you did fine. I'm like, of course you would say that. Of
You're
course
like,
you love
Shut
me.
up. You're supposed to say that. You're my husband.
You're supposed to support me. But when there's other people coming in, it's like, okay, it's not just one person.
Yeah.
Like, this is truth. I'm hearing it from multiple sources that I trust, that I respect, that I know love me. So.
And it's worth mentioning that you don't need a lot of friends.
Yeah, quality over quantity.
I don't know why everybody wants so many friends in this world. Like, you don't need that. If you're actually like having a, productive life.
It's not maintainable.
That's what I'm saying. It's
to
like,
have that many close quality friends.
It's not, and we don't even have a kid. If you're out there and you have a kid, you have all these responsibilities, like you can't maintain 20 best friends. Like it's impossible. It really is. And I would go even as far to say, like, I don't even know if you can find that many people that click with you in that way. Like it feels forced at that point. But, instead of finding more friends, that's not maybe the solution to your problem. Maybe as a couple, you guys have to realize, okay, maybe we just have to spend more time or invest in our current relationships and go deeper. I think it's easy to have a ton of surface level relationship friends and marriage friends, but like if things are really going bad and it's like, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on, can you call any of those people? And if you can't call any of those people, and if we were doing really bad and I couldn't call any of them and say, I don't know what's going on, me and Adrian are not doing good, then those are not quality friendships. They're just surface level. And that doesn't there's no benefit to surface level friendships.
Yeah, it's hard to take yourself like into deep, authentic friendships, and it takes time, but that's why you have to invest in those relationships now, because you're going to need them going forward. But when things go bad, it's like, hey, by the way, I know we've been that close for a while, but I got a lot I'm going through. Yeah. Like, if someone came to me like that, it's like, whoa, I mean, I don't know if I feel responsible to carry this burden with you, because we don't have that intimate relationship yet. Doesn't mean it can never happen, but I think you have to be super intentional to build those relationships, because, I mean, you're just not meant to do life alone. I know it's like a key phrase that you hear a lot, but that's why, daily or over time, you really have to invest in the things that really matter.
Yeah. And like, too many marriages are silently suffering. And they're not good and they're not happy, but they have no lifeline to go be like, hey, we need help. And I get it. It's embarrassing at times, or you think it's embarrassing, but it's really not. Like,
it's hard to humble yourself and say, I need help, or I'm struggling in this area, because you just think, well, they have it all together. They're perfect. They don't have problems. But everyone has something that they're working through, whether it's big or small, or now or later. Like, I think at the end of the day, if your people really love you, then they want to help you, they want to be there for you. They would rather you say something than to like never know what you had to walk through.
Yeah.
And have to do that by yourself.
Yeah. I wonder how many marriages that have ended would have made it if they were to just be honest and tell somebody like, hey, we are not doing good. We need help. And if that's you, just like reach out. Like, I mean, if you have a church, then reach out to the church. If you know people, like just reach out to somebody, because it's like, it's just such a lie of the enemy to just silently sit there and not be happy and let it deteriorate and think that that is the normal and that's what your life is supposed to be. Like, your marriage is supposed to be awesome and fun and fruitful, and it can get there. You just need to ask for help honestly. Nobody expects you to be perfect. Like, that's just not intended. So yeah, have good friends, but quality obviously over quantity.
Yeah, I think your relationships really affect your health and like where you're going in your trajectory. So your growth can really be hindered by unhealthy friendships, for sure. And so if you're in a season of pruning, I feel for you. I have been there. I've been pruned in other seasons. Talking about being rejected again, being pruned, whatever. But I think, you look back and you think, okay, like maybe that was for a good reason, and maybe that is going to take me places that I wouldn't have gone otherwise. So you just have to take a real inventory of your life and the people around you, and who is going to go where you're going. Who can you take with you? Who can champion you and not be jealous of, maybe the celebrations that you have in your life? Who can actually champion you and walk through that and challenge you as well?
Yeah. And by the way, I know we're taking a little bit more time on this section, but especially as adults, especially as a married couple, if you want quality relationships, it will require intentionality and work.
And vulnerability.
But, it's like too many people are just friends with one another because of proximity.
Yeah, it's convenient relationships. It's not deep, authentic friendships.
Oh, my kids play sports together, so we're friends with the family. Oh, they go to school together because we're friends with the family.
Such a loose term.
That can start, obviously, there, but I'm just saying, like, you have to be able to say, okay, let's spend some quality time. Let's be honest. Let's be vulnerable, because that's the trap of too many surface level relationships, and then you don't gain depth with anybody. But do you want to talk about just kind of the idea of, we've been married for 7 years now. 7 years.
Good years.
Going on 8. And obviously we both have changed within that time. So we can kind of talk about how to grow and celebrate and navigate when we change as people, because we're not who we were when we got married.
And that's a good thing.
That is true.
It's a good thing that I'm not who I used to be, because I think, growth. You got to be on an upward trajectory. So I think a lot of the things that you'll hear, like take or fake, oh, like we grew apart. I think that is just such a cop-out to, like, just lazy, like, no amounts of effort. Like, oh, we grew apart and we're not the same people we used to be. And it's a bad thing. It's like, okay, well, how do you keep that connection alive? How do you appreciate the new person that they are? Celebrate their successes. And I think growth is a good thing. Change is a good thing. Change is inevitable. So how do we grow together? How do we celebrate, the different steps we're taking to be better people, and not just let that convince us that it's a negative thing.
Yeah. When we made our vows, right, we vowed to each other. I didn't vow to you as you were when we got married. And then if you change as a person, and then, okay, well, that's you changed, so that's no longer my problem. And that's like, we are in the covenant of marriage. And so because of that, we've promised each other, ourselves to each other, for
richer, for poor, sickness and health,
better or worse.
Like, you have made your choice. And so how do you, just be committed to that, whatever that looks like. I think it can be hard to do, but know that just because someone has changed doesn't mean that they're bad.
Yeah. And there are outliers out there of
course, and that's true with everything.
People that go AWOL and crazy, and it's terrible when you hear about that, of somebody just like losing their mind and doing whatever. But a lot of the times when especially as a man, it's like if you're not liking or you're not seeing your wife become or change into who you want, then you have to ask yourselves a question like, well, you are the one that led her there. So what are you doing to lead your family and lead your bride? And, yes, we both have grown as people, but it's taken work, and we've grown together. And that's the point of it, is like you stay connected, and through the years you will change, but you will begin to love the change in each other. Yeah, I'm glad that we weren't who I was. I got married at 21. Adrian was a little bit older, but
24.
24.
So drama.
Whoa. No, but I'm glad we are not that version of ourselves, because we were kids back then compared to what we are now.
Yeah. I think though, when you think about growth, it's a daily decision.
Mm-hmm.
I think, when it comes to things changing, good or bad, you can't just like wait till things explode or till things are better. Like, it's a daily decision to love your spouse. It's a daily decision to love who you're with. And you can't let those things get away from you and then wait till, a year down the road, 5 years down the road. It's like, I don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're missing the intentionality. Maybe you were missing the affirmations. Maybe you were missing something along the way because you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
So you have to be really present on that journey. You can't just arrive at the end and say, how did we get here? Because it doesn't happen in a day. It happens daily.
Yeah, it's like marriage is really, the picture I'm getting is that like marriage is kind of like the rudder on a ship. And so it takes time to really see the results of the way that you're living your life together. So it's like if you're in a season where you're like, man, why is there so much tension between us? Why is this not working? Why am I not happy? Okay, well, you can't look at that, what happened that day or even last week. It's like, hey, what have you guys been doing the last 6 months, the last year?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys haven't been going on date nights. Oh, you guys haven't been spending time together. That's probably why you're frustrated with each other all the time. That you have a short fuse. Like those things are the culmination in marriage of habits that have happened in the past.
Definitely.
So you take that wisdom and you realize, okay, we're going to start making changes today, but we might not recognize those changes and feel it in our marriage until 6 months or a year from now.
Yeah, until later on.
But that's just the idea of it.
And that's the patience that you need in the growth process.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's kind of conclude here. I don't know if we'll have time for Q&A. We'll decide once we get there, but we can talk about a little bit with like fighting, because me and Adrian fight all the time. No, just kidding. No, but
eye roll.
Fighting happens in marriage, or arguments, or disagreement, whatever you want to call it. Everybody calls it something different. But if you're trying to grow as a couple, like me and Adrian truly are two completely different people. Like our personalities are different. The way that we see life is different, and so because of that, there will be friction, but friction is good if you want to grow. So you want to talk a little bit about, maybe some of our rules in fighting and how we do and what we don't do.
Yeah, and we talked about this before. Like sometimes I'm a processor and you're a solver, and I just need to take time. So I think if you're fighting and you're going through seasons of tension, because there is tension in growth, when you're going through those seasons, I think you just need to not have your conversations around a ton of emotion. I think you need to be more logical about what you're saying, because you don't want to say things out of passion that you don't mean.
Yeah.
So you need to take time to make sure that you're in the right headspace to have this conversation so it's actually productive. We're not fighting so that I can just, I need to vent to you about all the things that you do that bother me.
Yeah.
That's not really going to get you anywhere productive. So how can our fights, if you want to call them that, how can they get us to somewhere productive? And how do we safeguard each other's feelings as we have these disagreements and discussions? Like, we're never going to talk about how divorce is an option. Like, well, if you love me, if you don't love me, why don't you just leave me?
Yeah,
we don't say things like that, because you're planting seeds that either those are options, or, oh, why don't I do that? Or like, you don't really love me. I'm not speaking those things over myself or over you. We're not cursing at each other normally.
Today. I don't.
You're
Well,
saying things that are honestly out of love because you care about them. If you didn't love them, you wouldn't have
care.
a disagreement or even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
If you love them, you're actually looking for a solution. So when you're having those fights or those arguments, you have to know you're coming from a place of love. And if you're not ready to come from that place, I don't think you're ready to have that discussion yet.
Yeah. Emotion will cause you to say more than you mean.
Yeah.
And when you do that, especially as a husband, you have to realize that your words are weighted so heavy. And so you have to be careful because when you say something, even if you don't mean it, those words are out there and it's received from the other person. So even if you say something in the moment emotional and you don't mean it, then that person now has heard those words and it becomes real to them.
Yeah.
And so that's why you really have to protect yourself when in fighting. Come up with rules, boundaries. And that's what, yeah, me and Adrian, we'd never say divorce in a fight. I've learned to be patient. We're talking about patience. And people will probably, be on the same page of like, we're very different to where like if Adrian hurts my feelings and she says, I'm sorry, I'm like, okay, great. Like that's how my mind works. Hey, you're sorry. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, let's go to dinner. Cool. Like problem solved.
It takes me time when you say you're sorry. I'm like, okay, I know that's true and I receive your apology, but like I'm not feeling ready to just like change my emotions on a dime. Yeah. I need to like process what you've told me. I need to think about that. I need to like let my heart know what my head knows.
Yeah.
And let that go all the way through.
And I used to be like, okay, come on. I said I'm sorry.
Like, aren't we done with this fight already? I said I'm sorry. Did you need anything else?
No, seriously. I used to be like, what are we doing here? I said I'm sorry. And you said you forgive me, so why aren't you all happy and cheery and, But I've had to learn like, okay, it takes a lot to process those feelings. So sometimes in bigger moments, it's like, hey, I'm sorry, and we resolve it. But I got to realize that she's still like reeling and getting back on track with how she feels, maybe for a day, maybe for 2 days. And so because of that, I'm understanding and I realize that it's not like, oh, it's all good. All right, let's go. But I have to be sensitive towards how she's feeling in that moment. But that just takes getting to know one another and how each other processes and how we feel about that.
And I think in fighting, like, if we're having a huge disagreement and it's getting, like, maybe really emotional, I think the last thing that I want you to do is to, like, okay, well, I'm, like, leaving. Either, like, you're walking out the door or you want to go to a different room or you're, like, taking the keys and you're leaving because, like, you just have to blow off some steam. Then that makes me feel abandoned. And fights are super vulnerable because all your emotions are out there, whether they're tamed or not. They're all out there. So when you're like, if someone were to say, I'm just leaving, I can't handle this anymore, and you walk out or you leave or you drive away.
That's not beneficial.
That's not going to get you to a resolution either.
Yeah. And that's it's the hardest place to be selfless, but you have to be selfless. If you want productive disagreements, because disagreements can be productive and you can have a unified win in the end. And that's the goal is we will get mad and irritated at each other because we're different, but you can always come to a good resolution at the end of it and learn going forward. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do this because it makes her feel this way. Maybe I shouldn't say these things because, and the goal is, of course you disagree, disagreements and fights will happen, because you were two people, but I think it will become less frequent. Like me and Adrian aren't fighting every single day. Like we, in terms of if we're talking about I don't even know how you categorize that, big fights, but they don't happen often. And generally when they do happen, it's because of a misunderstanding. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten better and are continuing to get better at caring for one another and we learn. You got to learn from your fights. If you're having the same exact fight over and over and over again, then something's got to change. You got to figure it out because that should not be happening.
We got to find a compromise, find a resolution, find a way to move forward.
Yeah.
And someone's got to give a little bit, It's hard to say I'm sorry. It's hard to say I'm wrong. It's hard to say I can improve in this way. But I think we all can.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. We do, have some Q&As that are coming in. What we're going to do though is there's like categories of Q&As. Like And there have been a couple questions that have come in more about like marriage intimacy and things like that. And I think what we're going to do with those questions is we're going to have a whole separate episode where we talk about like sex and marriage and everything like that. Just because like if you're single, you don't need to be hearing that. Like that's just, you don't need to know about any of that. So I think we're going to do a separate episode with that. And we'll try and categorize the questions coming in with what we're talking about in the episode. So if you've asked a question and it hasn't been answered yet, just, our ask is be patient because we're trying to make everything kind of, go together.
Yeah, we want it to be fluid. We want it to make sense. We want it to reach the right people. And so we really appreciate all your questions and appreciate your guys' support. Know that when we get your questions, we are praying for you. Like, I know that, life can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to provide support and provide not just like our thoughts and opinions, but the best like answers that are biblically based, that are prayerfully considered. And, it's not just on the seam of our pants that we're answering these things. We actually really care about the advice we're giving.
Exactly. So make sure that you guys leave a review. If you haven't, if you didn't want to pause the episode to leave a review, go after the episode and do it. Keep asking questions and engaging with us on social media. We're so thankful for every single one of you that are watching and listening and being a part of the It Takes Two family. We'll probably have an official name for you guys next week, hopefully.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, it will be fun. But we love you guys. We're praying for you. And thank you for listening to It Takes Two.